Hello guys! Today I'm going to give you an example about using pthreads. So we'll start by including standard input.output.h, and this will be used for writing, printing basically, which I will use here, for example, and here. And it means printing to the output stream. Next, I need to include the pthread.h library, which is the POSIX library that we're going to use to create our threads. And finally, I'll need the standard library in order to be able to exit. Oh, which I use here. And this is it for including stuff. Next, I need to define a macro, which is the number of threads that I'll be creating, and I want it to be 5 in this case. Okay, so how do I go about this program? We'll start from the main. First, I want to define an array of pthread_t things. And what are those? It's basically like an int, but it is used to store the thread ID. And the size of this array is num of threads, which is basically 5. And then I want an integer t, which will be used to track the index of the thread I'm creating, and an error variable that's gonna store the result of the method that creates the thread in order to tell whether the creation process was successful or not. And where will these things be stored? Actually, I know their size, right? I know that this is an array of 5 integers, and I know that I have 2 integers here. And since I already know their size, then those will be statically allocated, and therefore they will be allocated on the stack of the main thread. And they are basically local to that main thread. This is where they'll be allocated. Then I have my loop, which starts from t equals 0 to the number of threads. So it's gonna go through 5 iterations from 0 to 4, right? And it will increment the index t every time by 1. This is going to print the index of the thread that I will be creating, and then it will directly afterwards create it. If the creation process is successful, I'll get 0. If I get a number different from 0, it means that the creation of the thread was not successful. And that's why I would exit. Okay? But in order to create the thread, what do I need to pass? First, I need to pass the variable where I'll store the thread ID. So where do I want to store it? So I pass the memory location where I'm going to store that thread ID. And when I pass it by reference, when I pass basically the location, then whatever is in here will be updated, and it won't be a copy. It would be the actual memory. So this would be updated. Usually, if we pass things by value, if I have here an array and then I pass it by value, I'll have a local copy of that array, and then whatever changes I make inside that function won't be reflected here. However, since I'm passing it by reference, any changes I do inside threads t, which will be assigning the ID, will be reflected here actually. And the second argument involves changing things about the stack, for example, the stack size, etc. The third argument is about the subroutine I want my thread to execute. In this case, I want my subroutine to be print hello. And I'm gonna pass in the arguments. And the argument I want to pass is t. Since I have to pass it as a pointer, so I will get the memory location of my index and t, and this is how I pass it to the subroutine. Okay? And once I'm in there, I simply print the value of the t that I passed. So here, followed by hello CMPS272. So the value of the index, in order to get that, first of all, I've passed the memory location of it. but it's passed as a void pointer. So I need to cast it to an int, and then I need to dereference that. This would give me the memory location. Then I need to dereference that memory location to see the value that's stored at that memory location. And then I would simply exit the thread. And what this over here means is that it's going to wait for all the threads to complete their work before it terminates. So the main thread is going to wait. It's going to be blocked, and when all its threads are finished with the work, it can terminate. However, if I put exit, it won't wait for the threads and it would kill them all. And that's why I need to use pthread exit, alright? Now I'm going to run it. So I have to write gcc o, and I'm gonna call it a. This is what I want my output file to be, and the file name is example.c. Don't forget to put -pthread. Okay, and now /, sorry, that's a / I believe, and a. And this is the output of my program, which I'm gonna copy to a text file so we can analyze together. Okay, so this is the output of my program. First, thread 0 was created, then thread 1 was created. So here, who's executing? The main thread is executing. I know that the main thread is executing because this statement is being printed, and the other threads are not allowed to print the statement. All the other threads are going to print this statement, right? So at this point, I went to this statement, which means that one of the threads 0 or 1 that were created took the torch and is now executing. So I have this value hello CMPS 271. But if you notice here, though, the 1 is equal to the last value of t that I had. And here, if you look, thread 2 was created, so the latest value of t, the index t, was 2. Then when one of the threads, which are 0, 1, or 2, was allowed to execute, the latest version of the t was printed. And this happens everywhere. So here I created thread 4. Oh, but interesting thing, I have 5 and not 4. And I have a 5 because this is also the latest value of t. But why do I have a 5? Because like the loop increments one more time before it checks this condition, and so the final value I happen to have was 5. Okay, and why do I always print the last value of t? Because this routine takes the value by reference, and when it takes it by reference, it always gets its value from the memory location, and the memory location stores the most recent value. Because no local copies of t are being stored, and because I'm accessing the original t, I'm always printing out the most recent value of t. So I hope this is clear. And this is pretty much it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. If you have any questions, please write down in the comments. Bye.